Hey, ladies. Okay, I had asked earlier on our page about what you ladies would like to talk about, and so several of you guys have given me different subjects and topics, and so today, by after looking at all that, I saw that several of you kind of agreed on one thing, and so I thought today that I would go ahead and kind of target that, and that is on this magic I'm sorry, on this Monday Marriage Magic, let me get my wording right. We're going to be talking about making time for our spouses. Um, that is a huge one, and it's a huge issue in a lot of marriages, but at the same time, it's something that almost every marriage deals with at one point or another. Some people have mastered this, and I say mastered in the sense that they are in a good habit of making that a priority as far as having time together with just them. So no one's really mastered it in the sense that it just magically happens. But there are some couples that have gotten really, really good at making that a huge priority in their marriage. And so this is something that's near and dear to my heart as well, because I had our preacher at the time before we got married did some pre-marriage counseling with us, and this was something that he actually targeted. And I'm 18 years old at the time. Dietrich is 19 years old, so we were young. I mean, like, thinking like we had the whole world ahead of us. Marriage was going to be great. We were so in love, it wasn't even like a problem that we foresaw. And so, but him being wise and older and more experienced in marriage, and probably doing a lot of marriage counseling for several couples, knew that this is a common problem in a lot of marriages. And so he gave us advice early on. And so I feel very, very blessed because of that. Because it really, not that we haven't struggled with making it to keeping it a priority, but we've always been aware of it from day one. And so that did kind of help us, if you want to say, had a head start in the situation, because we always have known and we were taught that we have got to keep each other first before our kids. Because if our relationship is not right, our relationship is not grounded, we are not together as one front, one unit, then that's going to make the home not a good foundation, a happy place for our children. And so, obviously, God should always be number one in both of your guys's the wife and the husband. God should be number one, but then number two should be your spouse. And so, for mothers, this kind of is a difficult thing to put your head around when you have children, because children are needy. They're very dependent on the mother. So our natural instincts are to be drawn to our children first. And so really, though, that's why, anything in marriage, none of it's easy. Anything worth anything you have to work at, and so this is another one of those things. And so I really kind of wanted to bring this topic up as far as making time for each other. It doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have, if you want to spend some money, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. But sometimes, you have to get creative. When we were younger, we obviously had a lot less money. And so when we were first starting out, and so, a lot of times, we couldn't afford a babysitter and things like that. So, one of the things that me as the mom, and so I'm putting this on you mothers, is one of the important things that you need to do, and that I did, was your children have got to have a set bedtime. It's not mean. It's not, being a bad mom. It's not feeling like, oh, I need to get rid of my kids. But it is imperative that your children have a set bedtime that gives you enough time with your spouse to where you guys feel like you guys can connect at the end of every day. I know a lot of moms, and my husband was at the time too, have husbands that are in the oil field, or maybe they're in the military, and so they're not necessarily home every night. but you do try to make that communication with them every day. And so it's always healthy to have an uninterrupted time, which if your kids are in bed, then you can have an uninterrupted conversation, whether it's on the phone or in person with your spouse. And it doesn't have to be like some deep conversation, but just time to reconnect with them throughout the day. Ask them how their day was. They ask you, maybe talk about some things that that just goals and things that you guys, whatever, spouses want to talk about. But that's definitely important. And again, it has to be a time that is early enough in the evening to where you have a good amount of time. Now, for my kids when they were younger, obviously the bedtime changes as they got a little bit older. But, and this is actually, believe it or not, something I struggle with now because my kids are so much older. They're kind of self-sufficient, and like my boys have a bedtime at 10:30, which is kind of late now, but they're teenagers, and so, and we're not super early risers. We're a homeschool family. We are not on the public school system schedule. My daughter doesn't have a bedtime. She's 17. As long as she's responsible and she's getting her stuff done and she's getting up, she does go to public school. She's getting up on her own, and she's always been pretty self-sufficient in that area and responsible. So she doesn't even have a bedtime, and so as long as she's responsible and on time to school and all of that, I just kind of let her be in that situation. But my boys, I do give a bedtime of 10:30 in the evening, and that is kind of late now. So when our kids are older now, I'm finding myself back in that situation. Like, when is my husband and I going to have our quiet time, our alone time, our time to reconnect? And that has been something that we've kind of had a hard time finding a compromise there. And so we're going to have to figure it out because it needs to be a priority. So that is for your daily reconnection with your husband. Definitely your kids have to have a decent bedtime. So when my kids were younger, it was like 7:30, baby age, they're down for the evening. They might have to wake up if I was nursing, and I would nurse them and they go right back down, dirty diaper, things like that. But then, as they got to the toddler years, it was 8 o'clock, but you have to rear and train your children to do that, because I know a lot of moms are like, well, my kid won't go to sleep at that time. Well, that's your job to train them. There's going to be some easier kids that go to bed easier, and there's going to be strong-willed kids that want to force their will upon you. And as a mother, it is your job to train them to do what you say. And I have really good, obviously the Bible has a lot of things to say about discipline, and I've even done some vlogs about in the Tots and Teens on Tuesday sections. So you can go back and look at those if you want, but I have some good books that I've read over the years that are biblically based. In other words, the advice that they're giving on discipline and rearing and training our children comes from the Word of God, and they give book, chapter, and verse for a lot of that stuff. Because if y'all haven't known me, and it doesn't take you long to know that that's where I want my information coming from, is from the scriptures. So you definitely need to get your kids in bed at a decent hour so that you have that reconnect time with your spouse. And two, you guys have to making each other a priority. Like I said, it takes work, and so you're gonna have to set aside a time to where you guys can go out together, where you can get a babysitter. If you can't afford a babysitter, then you get with some of your other young mom friends and you guys switch babysitting dates. Like, I'll babysit for you free if you babysit for me free, and work it out that way. You might just have a good friend that will watch your kids for free, or get a high school student, that you trust from maybe the church youth group or something like that, to watch the kids. And there's different ways that you can get babysitters for your kids when you don't have a lot of money to pay for them. If that's not a struggle for you, then that's fine. Schedule a babysitter. And you have got to make time for you and your spouse to go out. And one of the rules that our preacher told us all those years ago was, when you guys go out together, husband and wife go on dates, you are not allowed to talk about kids, you are not allowed to talk about money, and you are not allowed to talk about work. That's really hard as a married couple. But if you think about it, to keep that love and that marriage and that flame alive, when you were dating, you were not talking about kids, because hopefully, you might not have had them. You were not talking about money, and you were not talking about work. You guys were so enthralled with each other, and you guys were just so excited to be together that you had other things to talk about. And so that's the hard part after you get married, is not getting in that steady rut of the day in and day out, kids, money, work, grocery store, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, and something that you can do to help with that, wives, is, you know, maybe if you feel like you're kind of put on the spot when you are on a date with your spouse, because naturally, as wives, and I'm speaking for myself too, we want to talk about the kids, the worries that we might have, the goals that we might have. You know, money is always an issue, you know, when you're trying to raise a family and you're trying to budget and you're trying to, you know, be successful in life and move forward. I mean, you know, and so those are things that are very natural for us as couples to talk about, but they're not healthy in the sense that you're trying to reignite your relationship on a date night. There can be other times on your nightly reconnects when you're doing that, you guys can talk about some of that stuff. But when you guys are setting, whether it's once a month, once every other week, I know when our kids were younger, we tried to go every payday, so it was bi-weekly. You know, every weekend, every other week when Dietrich would get paid, that was a priority for us. And we were tight. We were on a very tight budget, but our marriage was a priority. And so we would set aside some money to where we could go to dinner, you know, maybe a movie too. Not always that was the case, but definitely we would go to dinner. It wasn't anything super fancy, but, you know, we could get away. We didn't have the kids, mommy, oh, I gotta go nurse. Oh, I gotta go change a diaper. Oh, I gotta go break up this fight. You know, it was without children, completely without children, just me and my husband. And so, however often you do it, make sure it's on your calendar, whether it's mental calendar. I highly recommend being a visual calendar, whether it's your phone or on the fridge or whatever, but make a time to where you and your husband can go out together without any interruptions of the children and do not talk about children, money, or job. Another reason that is important is because our husbands want us. They want the woman they married. They want the lively, fun, energetic, sexy, you know, whatever. They want the woman they married. And even though they have us, sometimes we get lost in the mundane, day in and day out responsibilities of motherhood, that we forget that our husbands, they fell in love with who we were. Now they grow to love us even deeper when they see us as a mother and they see us as a wife and us striving to be more godly, and when they see us striving to serve them and striving to want to be the best wife we can be. That makes them fall deeper in love with us. But they are still men who are attracted to us as their wives, and they want that fun loving wife. So they may not get it every single day, but on this night or this time that you set aside monthly or bi-weekly or whatever to have a date with him, get yourself back for that moment. And you guys will see a difference. You guys will see, I mean, and it might be awkward in the beginning, because if you're not used to doing this already, it might seem kind of awkward. But when you guys leave the house, hold your husband's hand. Just in the car, just hold his hand. When you guys are, you know, walking into the restaurant or whatever, put your arm in his arm. Things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. And if you do these things, that's great. But I do know that there's some couples that they get so lost in who they are and who they wanted to be as husband and wife, that when you're beginning it new again, it's kind of awkward and uncomfortable. But wives, because I'm telling you this right now, you're held accountable to it. Sometimes we get in that rut, well, why do I always have to do it? Why can't he do it? Why can't he put his arm around me first? Why doesn't he know that I want a hug? Okay, sometimes they just don't know it. Or sometimes we've been giving them such a cold shoulder, we might not even be realizing it, that we're not very approachable. They don't want to just put their arm around us because they're afraid they're going to get rejected. Okay, so because I'm bringing this up to you right now, it is your responsibility, because now you are aware of it, and now it is you are accountable to make the first move on your husband. If it's a peck on the cheek, if it's can you just hug me please? You know, I would love to have your big burly arms around me right now. He's going to look at you like, where's my wife? And who is this new woman? Okay. And it might be awkward for him too, but that's okay. If you do it more and more and more, it'll get not only more comfortable, but you guys will learn to love that. And it just brings a connection to you two that maybe you've lost or never had in the first place. So those are just some tips that I have, but definitely it needs to be a priority. Your husband needs to know that he's appreciated, that he's wanted. We want to feel like that. And you might not be feeling like that right now. You know, there's times in my marriage that I don't feel like that. But if I'm over here like, well, I don't feel appreciated and I don't feel like he even cares about my needs or what I want, and he's over there thinking the same thing, and neither one of us make a move, where are we going to end up? like nowhere good. So somebody's got to make the first move, okay? So be the more mature one, be the one that's not so prideful, lower your wall a little bit and just open yourself up to him and see what you get back, you know? And like I said, in the beginning it might be kind of awkward or uncomfortable, but the more you do it and the more you guys start building that trust, that little trust back that I can hug him whenever I want, I can kiss him whenever I want, I can just tell him I love him out of the blue. The more you do it, the more you guys both will appreciate it. And then he'll start reciprocating that affection and that attention that you're giving him. But anything that you would want as a wife, he would want as a husband, as far as, you know, feeling admired and feeling appreciated and feeling like, you know, he's the only one in your life and you couldn't live without him. And, you know, all those things that we feel as wives, we want our husbands feel too. And so this setting aside this nightly, daily reconnect time by getting your kids in bed at a decent hour. And if it's not early enough, because I know one of the girls on here said that they only have 30 minutes, then your kids need to go to bed earlier. Put them to bed earlier. They may not like it, but it's probably good for them anyway. You know, and just lay the law down. This is me and daddy time. And that's okay if you tell them that. You know, they don't have to be so mature and grown to know. They're gonna see that. And when kids see that their mommy and daddy love each other so much that they're willing to put them aside so that they can be together, that gives a kid a sense of comfort and security, more so than you would think. Because when a kid knows that his mommy and daddy love each other so much that they can't wait to be together and they can't wait to spend time together and not be interrupted with kids are like, oh, like kids love it when mommy and daddy love each other. Kids love it when mommy and daddy kiss. You know, when they get older, they're like, ew, that's gross. But when they're little, they're like, they're laughing and it's funny and they're closing their eyes. But it's never a bad thing. It's always a positive thing. So even if you have to get your kids in bed a little bit earlier so that you can have more time with your husband, hopefully in person, or if not in person, at least over the phone. Texting is huge. Me and my husband do text a lot, but get on the phone. Let him hear your voice. You want to hear his voice. You know, sometimes arguments can start easier through text when you're feeling neglected or he's feeling neglected or you guys are stressed and frustrated with just the way things are. Text messages can go south really fast, even when you don't intend them to, versus when you're on the phone, you know, especially when you guys miss each other and you guys are having your nightly reconnect and things like that. It just helps it be a little more close in the heart, if that makes sense. So definitely try to get on the phone more, not just through text message if he's not at home every night. But if he is at home every night, you know, even if it's sitting down together after the kids are asleep and watching your guys' favorite show together. I'm not a big TV watcher, so for years it was really just Dietrich was watching ESPN or SportsCenter, whatever game was on, and I was just sitting next to him because I'm not a big TV watcher, so I don't really care. I just wanted to be with my husband. You know, I wanted that uninterrupted time where I could relax and decompress from the day, and he was doing the same thing. But you know, we're cuddling on the couch, and I might be on my cell phone or whatever. And then other times we were talking, or a movie that I happen to like would come on, and we'd be watching that. As far as our nightly reconnect, but definitely you want to make time on the calendar to where you guys are going to get to go out, whether it's going out to dinner and a movie, going ice skating, going to a play. If you don't have money to do that, going out for a picnic. Wife, make a picnic basket, get something together that's easy. And then on that day that you guys have planned together, you know, take a blanket and just go, you know, to the lake or something and park and just visit and have each other time. But again, remember, no talking about kids, no talking about money, and no talking about work. So definitely come up with some other more exciting things to talk about, even if it's beginning and you don't know what to say and you're just telling him how handsome he is or how much you still get butterflies when you see him, you know, walk into the car from the grocery store, you know, carrying groceries, or, you know, just the things that you appreciate about him. You know, you can start it and I guarantee you he'll finish it. But definitely make your husband a priority because he needs it and you need it and your children need it. When the husband and wife are good to go, the home is a safe place. So I love you guys. I hope this is helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put it in the comment section of this vlog. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday on this Marriage Magic Monday. So I'll talk to y'all later and make sure everything we do is for the glory of God. Bye.